Okay, I am getting ready to make my scalloped potatoes. So here is the secret that my stepmom Judy taught me a long time ago. For scalloped potatoes, in order to make sure that they're cooked all the way through, it is easier if you pre-boil or you pre-cook the whole potatoes for a little bit and then cut them into the thick slices. That way when they go in your dish and they go in the oven, your potatoes are pretty much already cooked. I hate getting scalloped potatoes when the potatoes aren't tender and soft and they're still crunchy. Blech. So now a little trick that I learned when I bought my Instapot was that I could save me some time and some mess on my stove by doing my whole potatoes that are cleaned in the Instapot for 4 or 5 minutes with 1 cup of water, and then they would be cooked just the right amount to go in and cut up for the scalloped potato recipe. Now today I have actually a little bit over 4.5 pounds of potatoes. This recipe calls for 3 pounds of potatoes, makes 8 serving size, but I'm making it ahead for Easter, so I'm going to do a little bit bigger portions. So when I talk to you from now on, I'm just going to use the portions for making it for the regular recipe, which I will link in the description box below, because the rest of the ingredients and the preparation, I pretty much follow the recipe, but this is that secret step that makes this wonderful. So I have in here typically 3 pounds of cleaned potatoes. Now today I'm going to use the Yukon Gold. That's just what I had, and I went ahead and cleaned those. Secret tip on Yukon Gold potatoes, you can leave the skins on if you want to. And in my scalloped potato, or in my mashed potato recipe, I do. But for scalloped potatoes, and we're going to Easter, I want it to look a little bit nicer on my presentation. So I went ahead and peeled these. 3 pounds basically goes in here, and I'm going to cook them, high pressure cook them for 4 minutes with 1 cup of water. Okay, so I have my 1 cup of water, putting the lid on, sealing it, and I'm simply going to do the pressure cook, and I want to pressure cook them for 4 minutes. Now I'm going to try to get these all the way done. They will finish in the oven, but 4 minutes will be perfect for slicing them up. Okay, so the steam is already released, so simply take the lid off. And there comes the rest of the steam. My potatoes look exactly like I want them, so I'm going to throw this lid down, and I'm going to take my hot potatoes, and I'm actually going to attempt to hold this camera and dump them at the same time. Whew, they are hot. Okay, so while I go to the grocery store, I'm going to let these cool off, and then once they're cool, I'll slice them up. You do not want to slice these potatoes when they are hot. It will be miserable for you. And so sometimes if I'm in a hurry, I'll stick them in the refrigerator overnight, or I'll do them ahead of time, and then tomorrow I would cut them, or if I'm in a hurry, I can put them in the freezer, for 20 minutes or so, just to get them cooled off. But these aren't cooked all the way through, so as your fork kind of goes in, it stops. So they're still pretty firm. And when I first learned this trick of how to do these, I actually boiled them on the stove top in a pot of water. The problem was I would always forget about them, and they'd boil too long, and then I'd end up with mashed potatoes, which you don't want mashed potatoes. You want these firm so you can make nice thick slices, and then they'll cook the rest of the way when I actually put them together in my scalloped potatoes. But they're actually perfectly done. I did them for 4 minutes, and then it actually naturally released for 15 minutes because I was in the other room, but it was perfect. So 4 minutes, you can let them naturally release and then let them cool off. And then After I get back from the grocery store, we'll be ready for the next steps. Okay, so my potatoes are totally cooled off, and I made a decision just a second ago that I am going to go ahead and make the recipe and a half for tomorrow. I don't have enough room in my refrigerator to do anything but this one container for this and then another container for meatloaf. My refrigerator is so full right now, and the layout of my current fridge is horrible. We're actually going shopping for a new refrigerator here this evening, and I cannot wait to get one that's not the side-by-side, so that I'll have so much more room in our new house for a refrigerator that can handle when we do dinners, like for family and things. Right now, in the winter time, it's not too bad because, you know, if I make things ahead of time, like scalloped potatoes or cheesy hash brown bake or whatever the case might be, when it's super cold outside, like around Christmas time, I cover everything up and I put it out on the outside on the our patio, and I have extra refrigerator space. You know, that's not a problem. But today, you know, it's April and the weather outside is like 70 degrees. And it's absolutely gorgeous, but I can't use my outside overnight for anything that needs to be refrigerated. So I'm gonna have to make do. Now you can see when I slice these, I really am having nice thick slices of potato in my scalloped potatoes, and that's because they're pretty much cooked all the way through. And so they're going to bake up. I'll actually bake this tomorrow after I pull it out of the refrigerator, and I'll bake it for like 45 minutes to an hour once I get to Bob's house. And these potatoes will, you know, they'll soften the rest of the way through. So I won't bore you with slicing all these in front of camera, but enough that I wanted to just kind of talk for a little bit before I go on to the next step. And you could see that the thickness that I'm doing, and that's what I love about doing the potatoes boiling or putting them in the Instant Pot ahead of time to soften those up, so I don't have to worry about crunchy potatoes. Okay, so basically I'm going to be making a roux, so a cream sauce, and then I'll be adding cheese to it too. So this will be the base of the cheesy scalloped potatoes. So first I just need to melt some light butter, and again I'm doubling this recipe, but I typically, if it wasn't Easter, just would follow the for one pan of them, but I'm going ahead and doubling it today, so that's why my ingredients won't seem exactly like what you'll probably be using. So, but light butter here, melting it, and as soon as I have my light butter melted, then I'm going to be taking my minced garlic, and I'm going to be basically cooking that down just a little bit. Once this is all melted and a little bit of that liquid comes off of this, I'll be adding in my seasoning. So in this, you're going to put salt, pepper, and onion powder, and you're going to mix this all together. Okay, I have my butter melted, my garlic is fragrant, and so now I'm going to be adding in my salt, pepper, and my onion powder, mixing that up. And now comes the part where you make like a roux. So I'm taking my regular white flour and I'm going to mix this into it and kind of make a paste and cook this for a couple of minutes. You can see it's absorbing all that butter, garlic, and it's going to make like a paste here in this pan. I've got my heat on medium-high to do this. This is similar to how you would make a gravy if you were making a gravy from scratch with flour. Okay, to that I'm going to add my chicken broth. Give that a stir. And you can see by doing the flour with the butter ahead of time, there's no lumps. And then I'm going to be adding 4 cups of my almond milk. I'm going to take that off of the heat for just a second while I do that. As I said, I typically don't make this much, but I'm doubling it, so that's why you see 4 cups of almond milk going in instead of the normal 2. But now we're just going to stir this, and I'm going to turn my heat back on until it thickens up. And there aren't any lumps in that right now. So now I just need to take my time and let that come up to temperature, and it'll start thickening up. Boy, this took so much longer to bring up to the boiling point. I had to be really patient with it, but now it's there. You can see how thick it's getting so quickly. So I'm going to remove it from the heat. I just want to be careful with it. So it's boiling now, but I don't want it to burn. So taking it off, and now that it's off the heat, I'm going to stir in my cheese. So definitely don't want it on that hot burner anymore. Okay, so again, I like the Velveeta shreds. The cheddar for this, and you just put in a little bit at a time and whisk it in until it melts, and that's going to be your cheese sauce. Now you noticed I'm pouring it back into my glass Pyrex. It's so much easier to deal with when you're making the scalloped potatoes if you can pour it on. So I still have some in the pan. I'll put more in there as I need it. Okay, so I'm ready to assemble. And again, I am making these for tomorrow, so I am not going to actually bake them today. But I'm going to get them all ready, and then I'll pop them in my refrigerator, and then tomorrow I will get them out for Easter and bake them probably for an hour since they'll be really cold. It'll take a little bit longer than normal, but sprayed my pan with Pam, and then I'm just going to take half of the potatoes, and I'm going to layer those. And you can kind of see I kind of tilt them up. And the reason I do that is so that the cheesy goodness kind of melts down in between them. And again, I'm making a huge pan of these this time. Okay, that's about half of those potatoes, and this is about half of the cheese sauce, so I'm going to go ahead and pour it over this first layer. It's probably a little bit more than half. And this is the Parmesan cheese, so I'm going to take this and sprinkle it over this half as well. Okay, now the next layer of potatoes. Usually, I was just remembering, I try to keep the big, nice pieces for the very top layer so it looks pretty. And I did that kind of, but I could have done a better job with that. I'd forgotten when I make this for family, I try to make it look really nice and neat and put the end pieces, you know, these little pieces here toward the bottom, and then the top layer to look really pretty. So it's okay. And there I have my scalloped potatoes. They're ready to go into the oven, and again, that'll be tomorrow. If I did it today, it'd probably take about 45 minutes because they're already hot and cooked. Everything's cooked. You just want them kind of to melt down everything together.